On today's show, Star Wars. Should we go back to waiting 16 years between movies? Zack Snyder has his next project, and somebody has finally been cast to play Spawn. Who is it? Find out right now on Collider Movie Talk.
Spawn? What's that?
It's not a Marvel or DC property, so
I'm not interested then.
Yeah, definitely not. I don't want to see it. It's not Marvel or DC.
We're not obligated to make it a headline if it's from Image Comics.
Right.
It's not a well-known character from one of the two titans of comic books. That is a titan of comic books right over there, Mr. Jon Schnepp. This is a Star Wars Schmodown legend, Mark Yodi, Reilly.
Thank you.
And merely Mark Ellis. Welcome back to the States, Jon Schnepp.
That's
I guess
right.
you were in the States, but you were on the other coast.
Florida, the other states. Yeah. Hey, what's up, MegaCon weirdos? I had a great time at MegaCon. Everybody who came to my booth was exceptionally cool and fun. We debated quite a lot of things, including whatever Mark is going to start talking about.
It was a good toss. That was a really good toss. In the radio business, that's what's known as a tease, and it gets us into our first story. There's a report from The Hollywood Reporter that is saying that Lucasfilm is inclined to not release a Star Wars movie so close to one another after the less than stellar box office results from Solo, a Star Wars story, coming just 5 months after The Last Jedi was released last December. And I think that this is probably a good idea, Lucasfilm. I think regardless of the quality of the movie, I think that Star Wars, it's just not DC or Marvel or Image Comics. It's just its own thing. And part of the special, part of the thing that makes Star Wars great is that it comes out and we talk about it and then it goes dark for a period of time. Just like Richard Pryor in the early 70s when he disappeared to San Francisco and he started working on his stand-up and he became a completely different comic. That's what I like about Star Wars. It happens, it goes away, it goes completely dark, and then we start hearing things about the next movie. That's what I always wanted from Star Wars. That's why, even as a kid in the 90s, I said, you know what, I don't want a Star Wars TV show because it just feels like it's going to ruin what is special about Star Wars in the first place. And then we got the prequels, and then we waited a long time. Then we got The Force Awakens. We got really excited about that. And then a lot of people, even here in these halls, have said that they want more Star Wars movies. We want multiple movies a year come out. At least 2 movies a year. I just think it's too many Star Wars stories, and it gets very tough when you stack it up against Marvel because the genius of the MCU, what Kevin Feige has brought to that since Iron Man, is that there's so much interconnectivity between those movies. They build upon each other. One movie sets up the next one, whereas with Star Wars stories, they're going back in time from what we had with the new episodic movies, and it confuses some people, and others, it just becomes too much to digest in less than a year. So my question to the panel to kick off today, how many movies are too many movies for Star Wars and the brand in a given year? I say definitely no more than one. I think it's ridiculous to try to open more than one Star Wars movie if you want to preserve what is special about Star Wars in the first place. What say you, Jon Schnepp?
Well, you were talking about like that cicada lifestyle of like going away for like 16, 17 years and like coming back, I'm back, and then doing 3 movies and disappearing. I don't want to see that at all. I like the return to Star Wars, and I'm actually a bit greedy. I want at the very least 2 movies a year. And I think that, look, they might have stumbled a little bit, probably due to the reaction of The Last Jedi, and then no real trailers or anything for Solo until like about a month and a half before the movie came out. So I feel like those are some of the issues. Not that Solo is taking place in the past, because we're going to get a Yoda movie, we're going to get a Kenobi movie, we're going to get the movie I Want, the Boba Fett movie. We're going to get all those movies. Whether or not they release them in December, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to release, Episode 9, whatever that's going to be called. They're going to release that. And then the following year, we're going to get 2 movies a year. I mean, that's just really what's going to happen. I feel like maybe this stumble was a little bit of a stumble, but I don't think Solo is going to go down in history as like, oh yeah, that movie that, like ruined Star Wars. I actually really enjoyed the film. I feel it's going to recoup all of the money that it costs. Like, it's going to take a little bit because it costs, $350 million all in. So it has to basically triple that money to make that money. So you're going to have to get those digital downloads and things like that. But eventually, they're not going to lose money on Star Wars. They got a big park coming out. So I feel like going back in the past, Knights of the Old Republic, the Game of Thrones Thrones guys. When that comes out, that's when you get 3 movies a year. So it might be too unspecial for you at that point, Mark.
You're throwing 3 movies, and to be fair, I'm a Star Wars fan, so I'm going to go see the movies. You can give me 1 a week, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess my Thursdays and Fridays are now taken up permanently. I'm going to get excited to go see them. Same thing with Star Wars Land. I want to go check out Star Wars Land, but I don't think it's the right play. I think that it does take something away from it, because I personally don't want to hear anything about Episode 9 for a long time. I don't want to see screenshots of some weird toy in some country that just came out and it came out too early and now we think that might be the new character. I don't want any of that stuff for a long time. I want Star Wars to just, I wanted to go back into the inner halls of Lucasfilm, Reilly. I wanted to just be chilling at Skywalker Ranch in a little closet somewhere, lick its wounds, and come back stronger than ever in time for Episode 9, but not before.
It's good that I'm in the middle of this desk, because I am falling in the middle of your arguments. On one hand, I see what you're saying. I love the idea of waiting and building that excitement, and not necessarily seeing like leaked toys, but just getting that feeling of like, the new trailer is coming on Monday Night Football. Okay, we're gonna watch this, and we're excited. We haven't seen it yet. On the other hand, I do want. I could see 2 movies happening. But right now, it's a hard answer. I think Lucasfilm right now, if this report is true, they're a little too reactionary. They're doing this like what DC would do when one of their movies didn't do quite as well. It's like, oh, we got to change everything, lighten it, everything. No more Grady, get rid of Zack Snyder. It's like, calm down. There's no one reason for this. I think it's that nobody really wanted to see Solo. The diehard Star Wars fans are gonna see it, and I saw it, and there's some great moments in the movie. Overall, I did not like the movie. I thought it was too reliant on nostalgia, and it was too like, look at this. Hey, we did it. Remember that thing you heard about? Yeah, we did it. You're seeing it right now on screen.
Did someone say Kessel Run?
Yeah, and you're like, did somebody want to see a life debt? Well, And you're like, okay, I've heard so much about Han Solo over the many years of my Star Wars fandom. I didn't need to see this movie. Same goes for Boba Fett. I understand the lure of that character. Give me a bounty hunters movie and give me the seedy underbelly of the bounty hunters, Bosk, IG-88, Boba Fett, introduce some new ones, Bane from the Clone Wars. Let's see what that world is. That's the Boba Fett movie, I would say.
How do you know that's not what you're going to see?
It might very well be, but right now it's being touted as a Boba Fett movie. And Boba Fett movie...
They're not going to call it the Bounty Hunters Requiem or something. They're going to call it Boba Fett.
It's a good title, by the way.
Do you agree with Riley? Do you think Lucasfilm's being too reactionary based on what the
and too reliant on nostalgia? Like, the only way to move forward with this, I believe, is to really start to branch out. You've built the new trilogy off of nostalgia with Han, Leia, and Luke. Now we got to move forward. We got to keep it. You have Rey, you have Kylo Ren. These are some fantastic characters that were created. But then when you start to go back to the well, I don't want to see a Yoda movie. I don't want to see a Boba Fett movie. We don't need those. I do. It's kind of interesting, though. One of the stories that everybody seems to want to see is Obi-Wan, because there's this story. This is him wandering the desert, overlooking and looking after Luke. That seems to be a more interesting story that a lot of Star Wars fans would want. And
wouldn't it be great if it's just him eating oatmeal for 2 hours?
He's drunk at Mos Eisley all week.
No story. It's just like, I'm bored.
I've seen so many fan theories that have been tweeted to me about like what you could do with a cool Obi-Wan movie that, I mean, I would be interested in checking out for sure. But again, it's not a movie that I need in my life. I think Star Wars should really look at what do you want and what do you need, because Star Wars wants money. Clearly Disney wants money. That's why they're building Star Wars Land. Star Wars Land is going to make a crap ton of money. I just think that if you want to make it you want to separate yourself from the MCU, you don't try to be better than the MCU or release more movies or try to do bigger box office. I think that you have your movie come out at Christmas and then you go away for 1, maybe even 2 years before you release the next one, because it just, you have all these other outlets. You're going to have the Jon Favreau TV show. You have all these comic books and things that the hardcore fans love.
Yeah, but you have Rebels, which had an Obi-Wan fighting Darth Maul, and no one knew about that except hardcore nerds. Right. So I'm just saying, like, whether they do a Kenobi Kenobi movie or not, they've already started talking about the different time periods that have happened in between all these different movies in the TV shows. I mean, for myself, I don't mind seeing them explore. I actually really enjoyed Solo, and I don't think it was just like, hey, you heard about the Kessel Run? Here it is. It's things we all wanted to see. It's just some people are more bitter about it than others. I didn't come at it with that attitude, so maybe some people left, feeling like it was spoon-fed to them. I came away saying I saw exactly what I was hoping to see. I saw Chewbacca, I saw Lando, I saw Han Solo, I saw how they met. Did I have problems with the third act? Yes, but overall, I really enjoyed the film. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I mean, I don't have those kinds of issues that some people might have, maybe because they overthought it or for whatever. We can talk about it for an hour, which we should.
But I want to be clear. I'm not saying that release less movies than you're planning on right now because of the quality of Solo, because I really like Solo. I think it's a good movie. I just think that if that's the dialogue right now with Star Wars, that I would rather have Star Wars be this special thing that isn't constantly coming out, that there isn't always a Star Wars movie being advertised. I think that it preserves the sanctity of it a little bit if you just hold back. And like the coolest thing to me was having Force Awakens come out, right? And then we knew Rogue One was coming out next year, and that was a different timeline. And then we didn't hear anything about Last Jedi for a minute.
Wow,
we got a few months just to like relax and think about what it might be, and then we got trailers. That's really all we got. I like preserving the secrecy that Marvel doesn't really have the ability to do because they're releasing so many movies all the time.
But they also built up to that. They really took their time, Marvel did, to set up their shared universe. And I think what was a jump for me with Solo was that all of a sudden by the end, and for those who've seen, I'm not going to spoil it, but they introduced an element that went, we could make a shared universe of movies with Star Wars. But what's interesting about it, what they're telling me with this movie Solo, is that they're making a shared universe of past, and that we know where these characters end up if you look at the supplemental material. You know what happens to, what happens obviously to Obi-Wan in the original trilogy, but some of the characters they're introducing, and also your main lead of a Solo movie, you know what happens to him at the end.
But can't that be said for the prequels? We knew what was going to happen to Anakin.
Absolutely,
we knew he turned into Darth Vader.
Which is why some of the prequels didn't land with me as well. I mean,
I would watch Solo. I would watch Solo before I'd ever watch those prequels again.
See, Solo landed somewhere in the prequels with me. I think Revenge of the Sith is a better movie than Solo
over the prequels, but I mean that's all kind of stuff that is fun to debate the quality of a movie. But looking forward to the future of Lucasfilm and Star Wars, there's been a lot of movies announced. So you have the Rian Johnson trilogy that has been announced. Some of this stuff hasn't been confirmed by Lucasfilm, but it's stuff that's out there in the ether. So you have a Rian Johnson trilogy. You have the Game of Thrones creators that are going to work on a series of Star Wars movies, maybe more than a trilogy. Although trilogy is kind of a holy word in Star Wars, so it might be a trilogy. Boba Fett movie, Obi-Wan movie. How many movies are these all going to happen?
Jon Favreau's, which takes place
like TV show
between Return and the Force Awakens.
Yeah, well, Lucasfilm officially announced Rian Johnson's trilogy. They officially announced the Game of Thrones guys movies. They officially announced Favreau.
Yeah.
Hollywood Reporter announced Mangold doing Boba Fett. I don't know where it started with Obi-Wan. I think it was Hollywood Reporter again with Stephen Daldry. Those are in development but haven't been officially announced. So that's where I'm like, Lucasfilm was looking at Rian Johnson's trilogy, the Game of Thrones, the Favreau stuff is like, that's where we're going. But then these other development stories come out and they have to do with these original trilogy characters. So I'm getting mixed signals right now, and I think it shows you why and what is happening behind the scenes where they don't necessarily know where they want to go. I hope they don't get rid of Rian Johnson's trilogy. I would like to see it. I know a lot of people will probably yell at me for that, but I would like to see Rian Johnson's trilogy because of what he did with The Last Jedi, which is essentially look forward and want to introduce new stories.
Well, it'll also introduce new Jedi, like it showed at the very end, like kids like re-embracing the Force from what it was from the original Star Wars. It's not about midi-chlorians.
Right, and that's what I love.
Look, I mean, we could debate The Last Jedi for easily at least 7 hours.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like what Disney is trying to do, I don't think they're going to stop moving forward with releasing more than one film a year, and then it's going to go to 2, and then they're going to have a series. So what they're doing is like, look, were there some mistakes done with the marketing of Solo? Most definitely.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of things that I feel like that happened with a lot of their films where they replaced directors and they were like they have those birth pangs going on where they're trying to get their universe established. You can go back to Marvel 10 years ago and you saw Iron Man and the Hulk. Hey, what didn't work? The Hulk. You don't see that again. He's gotten reincorporated into the Avengers and we still get the Hulk done in a different way. I feel like Star Wars is in that same boat where they had their Iron Man and their Hulk, and we knew they were going to do some more. They were like, well, now that those were successful, we got Thor and Captain America, and what? They're making an Avengers movie? Like stuff like that. So that's where we are right now in the Star Wars world. Like, what? Jon Favreau's making a TV series, and the Game of Thrones guy are doing Knights of the Old Republic. They haven't announced that yet, but we all want that. So
and I want that too.
Yeah.
And if they build to that, if they build towards that,
going to
2 movies a year, I want that too because I'm a Star Wars fan.
But think about it like this: you're going to have a series that takes place in between, Star Wars and Force Awakens.
Jedi and Force Awakens.
That's a TV series, and you're going to have something that's way in the past with the Game of Thrones guy. Then you have the current stuff with Abrams and whatever. I guess Rian Johnson's trilogy will take place in the current universe. Maybe. I mean, I can easily see them doing a whole series once a year and 2 movies a year without any kind of problem. Maybe eventually graduating to 3. I know that's heresy, Mark Ellis, to your
look at Marvel.
weird creatures burying themselves in
I'm
coming back after 18 years.
Movies.
I know you're gonna.
Marvel got there finally. 3
Marvel got there. No, we want 4 movies. We're like 3 isn't enough. We're greedy now.
And the quality,
that's
depending
what
on
will
your
happen.
taste, is good. So people are coming back for more.
The
and
Hulk
they're
didn't make
saying
that
they
much
want it.
money. They didn't cancel Marvel. I mean,
No.
so Star Wars is just in that phase to me, and I guarantee you, in like 5 years, you're going to see 3 movies a year, and all of us, we're all going to still be right here at Movie Talk, being like, listen, there should be at least 4 Star Wars. I don't know.
And it's just for the
Star Wars
quality.
may have matured past the teething phase. I don't think we're going to mature. This is about as mature as we're possibly going to ever be. So this is the best we're ever going to be.
Yeah.
Take a picture of this today because we're going to be worse tomorrow and continue to devolve in every day subsequent. Well, if you just look at the grosses, because the comparison I think is valid to the MCU simply because these are the 2 biggest franchises. The MCU obviously being the biggest and most prominent franchise right now, which is weird for me as a Star Wars fan to say that, but it's true. I mean, you look at the numbers. However, I'm going to give Iron Man the credibility of being a comic book character that people were aware of. Like, even my mom knew she may not have known what his first name is, but she knew who Iron Man was. There's Marvel characters that have had their own movies come out that most people did not know anything about them. That would be the Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange. So when their first movies came out, Guardians of the Galaxy, $94 million, Doctor Strange, $85 million opening weekend, and Ant-Man, $57 million opening weekend. So I know Solo is a known character, and it's a built-in quantity, but they look at these Star Wars story movies as very different. I think the big reason why people think this is such a disaster is because of the success of Rogue One. Because Rogue One crushed. Came out around Christmas, but it was a standalone movie. People saw the Death Star. A lot of people saw Jyn Erso, and they're wait, is that Rey? Did they recast Rey?
Yeah, but that had a great ad campaign a year before the movie ever came out. We were talking about a Rogue One trailer. They dropped those trailers the way they should have, just like they did with the other 2 Star Wars movies, which they fumbled and did not do with Solo, and we're seeing the cost of that. I guarantee you it's because of the marketing campaign. All of us were talking. I remember like 3 months ago, we were all like, when are we going to see Solo? We're questioning it and like crying about it. Then they released some teaser, which wasn't that good. We're like, I don't know about this. Then the next teaser was actually really good. And we're like, wait a minute. And it's like literally a month away from the film. So that kind of buildup was not there. That buildup was there for Rogue One with all of its troubles and problems and the director getting replaced. The same exact thing that happened with Solo, only we never got to see 1 frame of the footage until literally about a month and a half before the film came out. It feels like about that. Maybe it's 2 months.
All right. I want 1 movie every 18 months. I want 1 movie every 18 months. Reilly is about a movie a year, maybe.
They need to build to that, make sure that they're moving forward, doing some really good movies. When that first movie really hits, like Rogue One did, this is just a setback. I don't look at this as a major flop. I do look at it though as they did spend more than $300 million on the original budget because they essentially reshot the movie, and then they had another 200, probably 250 plus marketing campaign.
Sure.
This does have a steep hill to climb.
Yeah, it does help if you don't have to remake your movie.
Yeah,
you
so
save
focus
a lot
on the
of money.
quality, and then you go forward, and then once you. I'm all for either Rian Johnson trilogy, or I love an Old Republic movie to maybe go back and see the beginnings of the Jedi and the Sith. Whole new characters, whole new stakes, all different worlds. Maybe you'd like, oh, here's Tatooine. It's like, oh, yeah, I remember that from the original trilogy. But all new characters, new stakes and everything. You get invested. And then if that springs out more movies in a shared universe, so to speak, that sounds good, and then you can have 2 movies, and then maybe you get to 3
I don't know,
movies.
Reilly. I already know what happens with the Sith and Jedi, so I don't know. I'm bored. I'm just saying, like, I mean, I'm in for any of it. I think it's not a setback to me. 115 million, whatever. Disney's just counting their croutons. They like making so much money. It doesn't matter. Like, we can cry baby about this for like the next year about Star Wars Solo being a failure. You know they're going to make another movie. JJ's making a movie right now.
Yeah,
Number 9's coming out. It's coming out December 2019. We're all going to see it.
We get so much,
hell yeah.
We get so much.
We get
time
that
to marinate
we
before
get a
that
little
comes out.
marination break. Exactly what you wanted. You got 18 months, and
will
then
say,
there's
yeah.
2 movies a year with a series, and then 3 movies a year in 2021. What's up?
I'm just enjoying
Probably
my
what's
time.
going to happen.
Yeah.
That's
Marinating
exactly.
like a
It's
steak.
like we're saying
in
the
the
same
backyard.
thing.
Just,
Yeah.
I'm just rolling in the sauce right now, waiting to be cooked in a year and a half. All right. Well, there is a movie that has been cooking for a while, according to Todd McFarlane. He has forever wanted to get Spawn in theaters, back in theaters after the 1997 movie where Michael Jai White played the title character that I saw in the theaters as a high schooler. I might have snuck into that movie. I can't remember. Al Simmons is the name of the character that is Spawn, and he gets double crossed. He's a Black Ops CIA guy, goes to hell, makes a deal where he can come back and he can hang out with his wife. But oh no, it was his wife shacking up with his best friend. We now have who is playing Spawn in the new remake, and this has some serious juice behind it now because Mr. Jamie Foxx is going to be taking on the titular role. Jon Schnepp, you hear Jamie Foxx is going to be playing this. We have done so many stories on movie, going all the way back to the AMC movie talk days.
God, yeah.
So many times it was either Spawn or The Crow.
Right.
You hear, okay, well, is this really happening now, or
Right.
is it just the creators really want to talk about it? And Todd McFarlane, to his credit, he's a very passionate guy.
Totally.
He wants to get this movie made, has so forever. Now we got a shot. We got an A-lister.
I'm very excited for Todd McFarlane. I mean, because we've been talking about it literally since I started doing this talk fest stuff. Like, McFarlane's trying to make this remake of this. That's 6 years ago.
Since you were a kid,
Since
at
I was
the parade
a
in
tiny
Ferris
child,
Bueller's Day
I was
Off.
jumping around, Spawn. Literally, Spawn did not exist back then. But, because I'm old. But I'm excited about Jamie Foxx. I think he's a great actor. He's an Oscar-winning actor. Has he been in some flubby superhero movies like The Amazing Spider-Man 2? Garbage.
Whoop.
Yes. But that doesn't say anything about him. That's about the film. He's an incredible actor. I think he's going to bring exactly what Todd McFarlane was looking for, because Todd said he was writing the role for Jamie. Like, sometimes when you write for specific actors that are in your mind. I think that's fantastic, is at least what Todd was trying to do and what he's been trying to do for the last 20 years. I mean, I think it's great that he's directing it, that he's producing it, and he's writing it, because, about maybe a year or two ago, we were talking about, he was like, I really want to make this Spawn movie. I want to make a gritty, low budget horror film. And we're like, put your money where your mouth is, dude. You got those baseballs, sell one, and get those millions. I think he's probably investing some of his own money. Blumhouse is also, they're keeping it really low budget, which I think is smart. I think that's the smart approach, especially with this character taking a lot of the superhero aspects away and bringing some of those horror aspects that are there inherently in Spawn already. The giant, costume is not going to be there. I think Spawn is going to be much more of a dark horror figure, more boogeyman styles. I think it's great.
And it's going to be rated R. And
Great.
Todd McFarlane, from his own mouth, said that he looks at this character of Spawn as he's always kind of been in the comics. I mean, I collected the comics when they first started coming out, but I think that this version of this is going to be a little different, Reilly, because he's compared it to like the shark in Jaws, where there's not going to be a lot of dialogue coming out of Spawn. He's going to be much more of like a Boba Fett character. You don't hear a lot of talking from him. So I hear it's R-rated. I think that's fantastic. It's only going to cost $10 to $12 million. Blumhouse is producing it.
Yeah.
Jason Blum's on board with Todd McFarlane directing it. Does that give you any trepidation that it's going to be somebody who might be a little too close to the source material taking care of it?
No way. I mean, he created this character. He knows this character inside and out, and he's now linked up with such a fantastic team in Jamie Foxx. I love that Jamie Foxx traveled to San Diego and went, hey, I want it, like 5 years ago. He's like, hey, just so you know, I would love this.
Right, it was like 2013 or something.
Yeah, I would love to be a part of this. And then when Todd McFarlane's writing the script, has him in his mind, and then comes back around. But all the reasons you gave, the fact that McFarlane is saying Halloween, like Michael Myers, like he's a force of nature that's in the shadows, that gets me excited. Not talking, that gets me excited because we're pulling out all the horror elements, and that's where Blumhouse comes in. This is a fantastic. I mean, I'm looking at this thing as pitch perfect so far. I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, I would just add to McFarlane, if you're watching, because I know you watch his movie talk. Todd McFarlane, get an incredible DP. That is one of the most important things. Is you being a director, make sure your man with the camera is getting those shots, composition wise. I know you're great doing that with the comic books, but you want a DP who's like lighting everything great. That's what I would get, an incredible DP.
You want to see Michael Jai White get some sort of cameo in here? I mean, I think he's earned something just being a champion of Spawn for as long as he was. I mean, the movie wasn't great, but like I want to see him get another shot. He's the only other person, but I understand that Jamie Foxx brings a certain amount of clout that Michael Jai White doesn't.
I think Michael Jai White is great, and guess what? He was already Spawn. He's also Black Dynamite. I don't think he doesn't have to diminish his role that he was Spawn 20 years ago.
Right.
There's a new Spawn. I don't want to see him in as a cameo. I think that it's great. I think he did a great job as Spawn. I mean, a lot of people crack on that movie all the time. It has its hits and misses.
Yeah.
I thought Violator was fun. I thought some of the CG was horrible, but whatever. It was a great attempt at making that character come to life.
It was 97. I mean, I can even admit, when I go back and watch Mortal Kombat, the first one, the Oscar-winning movie, some of the CGI isn't the best I've ever seen.
Get over here, schlink. You know,
it's so cool.
Oscar? It won Oscar?
Yeah, won Best Picture. Beat out the English Patient, I believe.
Mortal Kombat.
See, it just gets me excited to hear somebody yell Mortal Kombat like I did as the Mortal Kombat Annihilation was starting. I yelled out Mortal Kombat in the theater because I am a loser.
You're a winner, Mark Ellis.
I am not a winner, but Zack Snyder could be back on top with his next project. He just announced what it's going to be. On Vero, he mentioned that his next movie is The Fountainhead. Yes, fans of the Rand novel are going to be sure to know what this is about. I never read the novel myself, but I am aware of its anti-altruistic roots. It is basically about it's not a George Costanza type, because this is an actual architect who does not want to kind of go by what is considered to be the pressure of the day to build buildings in that style. He wants to follow his own heart, and he wants to take a more modernist approach. Zack Snyder, this is a very modernist approach for Zack Snyder. It's a very different approach for him, coming from where he has with these big budget comic book movies in the DCEU, even going as far back as action pictures like 300 or my favorite Zack Snyder movie of all time, The Guardians of Ga'Hoole. I mean, I think that this is an interesting choice for him, Reilly. Yeah. Is this the right move for Zack Snyder?
I think anything outside of the DC universe is the right move for Zack Snyder. I think he's going to pick himself up. He's going to dust himself off. And I'm very impressed he's going for the Fountainhead. That's incredible that he's going after. I know he was looking at another movie, the last photograph.
That's the movie I wanted to see. I wanted to see him do a war movie.
Yeah, I wanted to see that too, because his visual style would be very interesting in a war picture. I mean, you can kind of get hints maybe from 300, but that was a little bit more stylized. I would like to see his take on that. But I think it's interesting that he's kind of taking this book that, not a lot of people, I haven't read it personally. I know it's one of my dad's favorites. So I got to tell him and get his take. But I think for him to do this, it's a swinging for the fence kind of move for Snyder that I'm really respecting of him, that he's going for this material after hearing about the last photograph and that sounding like, that seems like a really, not safe, but just something a little bit safe.
All right, go. You and I got to sit down and watch a baseball game, because this is not swinging for the fences. This is bunting and this is
Fountainhead.
This is trying to get on base, baby, because this is not going to get the pull. Like if Zack Snyder announced, hey, you know what? I am going to go out there and I'm going to make that movie about the Revolutionary War that he talked about in the style of 300. It's going to be Washington crossing the Delaware, but it's going to be a lot of just like dudes with abs and just punching each other, wigs being ripped off. That is swinging for the fences. This is a smaller movie that's going to come out. Right. It might not get a whole lot of notice, but it's going to be Zack Snyder doing something different. And then maybe his comeback pitch is The Last Photograph. But that's the movie I really wanted to see him do next, because there's another director out there that makes a lot of big budget movies that don't end up well, named Michael Bay. Ooh. And then he went back and he did 13 Hours, and it ended up being one of my favorite movies of that year. Sometimes, Jon Schnepp, you just need a good war movie. Or do you agree with Reilly that The Fountainhead is the proper next project for Mr. Snyder?
It's probably the proper project for Snyder. I mean, in all of my feelings about it, I don't know if he's an Ayn Randian. I don't know if he's an objectivist. My guess is he is. Also, I'm not going to subscribe to Vero anymore, even though I'm on Vero, because I don't have to get my Zack Snyder information from Vero. It always shows up on social media. Zack Snyder said on Vero, because nobody's on Vero. It's kind of
he's
weird
the
ghost
only
town.
one.
What am I even supposed to do on Vero? It's just like Instagram and Facebook, but no one's doing anything. I don't know.
Snyder knows how to work
Snyder
Vero.
works Vero. I wanted to turn this into a Vero conversation. I saw The Fountainhead many years ago. Gary Cooper's in it. Check that movie out. King Vidor directed it. I had to look that up.
1949.
Yeah, dude, it's old school. Anne Randy, to be a Randian, you can go back in time. She died in 1982. A lot of our favorite comic book people, like Steve Ditko, is an Anne Randy, and that's why a lot of his characters, like The Question or Mr. A, come at like, being the protector of but from this kind of objectivist standpoint. It's a strange thought process. Not 100% strange. It's taking the ideas of capitalism and using them in a slightly different way. It's a little bit like existentialism. Look it up, check it out. I think it's a deep project for Snyder to want to be involved in. I also feel it's like the Photograph film was WB, and they're the ones who screwed him on Justice League. So I could see, I don't think The Fountainhead is going to be a Warner Brothers production.
That's a good point.
My
I
guess
wonder where it's ending up.
There might be a separation there for a good reason.
And that's why I feel like this is actually the swinging for the fences, because he's not going into a wheelhouse of his.
Not at all.
He's going outside of his wheelhouse and doing something that is not well known and not something that
it's only
his
well-known,
DC fans that want the Snyder cut. This is like the complete opposite.
The Fountainhead is an actual, it's going to involve a lot of thought. It's not an action movie. There's no George Washington isn't getting his wooden teeth punched out in slow motion
see what
by some ripped
abs
dude.
Looked like.
Yeah, honestly, I don't want to see that movie. I would much rather see The Fountainhead. It sounds way more interesting. It's using Zack Snyder's intellect, because the guy is a deep thinker. You don't really see that in some of his action films. Whether or not you think his thought process is the right kind of deep thinking, which for me sometimes I don't. Like, I think he's like a bro director. Like a lot of his Watchmen stuff, he didn't understand the complexity of Alan Moore's writing, at least in my shitty opinion. So I'm like, look, everyone has their own opinion. I think Watchmen is an incredible movie. There's some big missteps in there, but it's one of my favorite superhero films because he did nail so many of the things. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next. I want to see what he does outside of the superhero realm. I love film. I want to see what he's going to do with The Fountainhead.
Please don't ever doubt your own opinion.
No, I love calling
That's
myself.
what the internet is for.
No,
okay?
I wanted to say it before Trolls said it.
You get in front of it. You can never be made fun of if you make fun of yourself first. Good lesson for all you kids out there.
There it is.
2 more stories, and we're going to take your live Twitter questions. You can go ahead and start tweeting us right now at Collider Video. Use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk. Our next story is a new TV spot that premiered over the weekend for Ant-Man and the Wasp. The movie comes out July 6th, and it takes place before Infinity War. So this is the MCU getting a little cray-cray with the timeline, because we love that movies set up another one, and then what's that post-credit scene? It's going to harken to the next movie. Not the case with Ant-Man and the Wasp. It is going to be between Civil War and Infinity War. So Jon Schnepp, this one introduces us to what the possible villain presence in the movie could be. Did it give you a ghostly good time?
It did. In fact, this felt like a trailer. I mean, it felt like I think it's the length of a trailer. I know they're calling it a commercial, but it felt like the close to final trailer. I mean, how they keep showing like, hey, you saw that scene in the street? Now here's Giant Man doing some other things in that street scene. So I love the approach where we never see too much of the movie. They're just expanding on scenes we've already seen. This is the pre-dusted Marvel Cinematic Universe, so nobody's dusted yet. So spoilers for the 3 people watching who haven't seen Infinity War. If you haven't, I don't care. You should have seen it by now. So I've been working. I'm doing double shifts. I know, but you should have seen Infinity War. I've heard some of the excuses over the weekend. I still haven't seen it. I was like, what? Sorry, yelled, so just broke Adam's eardrums.
It's tough if you go to a comic convention. Like one of the MegaCon is like one of the biggest conventions in the States, and you haven't seen the comic book movie that you know has spoilers at the end.
Hey, look,
people buy their tickets.
I
and
did
then
a
they don't
Heroes
have time.
panel, and I said, how many people here haven't seen Infinity War? I think it was like one person. I was like, well, I'm spoiling it for you. And
Did
they
you
didn't
tell them
care.
to get out?
No, they
get out
No,
right
I
now.
said they already knew everything.
I'm sure
So it's
they
like
did.
it's like
Yeah.
you know, it's a kind of unavoidable thing. Ant-Man, can't wait to see this movie. Comes out, what is it? I think the week after San Diego Comic-Con. So hopefully they release it a week early so we could all see it there. That'd be fun.
That'd be fun.
What if Marvel just kept doing that though? You know what? We're just releasing it this weekend. Sorry, Incredibles 2. We know we're poaching from ourselves now. We just want Ant-Man and the Wasp to get out there earlier. Reilly, you saw this. You agree with Schnepp?
Yeah, it looks great. I love the idea of it being set before Infinity War because I bet there's going to be some little post-credit flavor that kind of sets up what his character at least was doing and how Avengers Infinity War affects it. But I love the idea of going back, seeing it's following the same thing Ant-Man did with the original movie. It's like another what looks like a heist film with this new villain, Ghost, and I love the effects. I love the banter between Evangeline Lilly and Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Michael Douglas is back. Peyton Reed is back. I mean, we got everybody back, and it looks a lot of fun. And this TV spot proves it.
I'm excited to see the movie, but do you think the timeline is going to mess with some people that it is before Infinity War? Do you think there's going to be people? Is Ant-Man that iconic of a character in the MCU where you go to see the movie and you're like, oh, we're not going to know what happened after Infinity War? And the same thing with Captain Marvel, because Captain Marvel is the next MCU movie to come out, and that one takes place in the 90s. So is this them getting a little cocky with their timeline? Like we know people are going to the theater anyway?
Is this like Solo? Or are they like, oh, we're going back Marvel's going to fail Captain Marvel because it's back in 91? I don't think so at all.
No.
I think like maybe your mom. I don't think your mom knew who Iron Man
No, my mom's going to be
2008,
confused.
your mom knew who Iron Man
Lynn
was?
totally knew who Iron Man was.
Well, then your mom is pretty cool.
Yeah,
'Cause
big Black Sabbath fan.
most of the planet did not. Well, there we go. There. The
There it
answer
is.
is right there. She was like, "Is it related to the?" No, but still, I bet she had an Iron Man comic.
My dad saw Iron Butterfly
Right?
at Wake Forest in college, and he said it was one of the best concerts he ever went.
I think Mark Ellis just won the Cool Parents Award here on this
Yeah.
because my parents are not in that zone.
He also saw Chicago, and he said they sucked. He said like
Whoa,
Chicago
what?
got there like 90 minutes late, and they were drunk. And I just cannot get the image of Chicago because Chicago's not like a 4-piece band.
No, that's
it's
a
like
big
20
band.
people showed
Yeah.
up with like bassoons and trombones, and he said they were all drunk. And I
But isn't that kind of cool that all 20 of them were drunk? That's kind of cool.
very rock and roll? 25
kinda-
or
That must have been a
64.
hell of a party bus
I
on
know,
the
right?
way over.
It's like I want to hear the Drunk Chicago remix. Like somebody had like taped that with a tape recorder. You know, like they got that, released that somewhere.
There's
I
a
wanna hear
great
that.
series of vids on YouTube that you can go in, and it's like somebody went in and like doctored like live concert footage to make it sound like it's out of tune, and it's just one of the best laughs you're ever going to have. Go down the rabbit hole. We encourage you. When you come back from said rabbit hole, we got a new Maleficent movie for you to check out. Maleficent 2. Angelina Jolie is back. The movie started shooting. That's why we're talking about it today. Is that the movie started shooting? So does that get you guys excited that it's
Good.
finally here and happening?
No.
Is that
I'm with Schnepp on that. I mean, great points. Totally.
That's the character? Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Okay.
Well, I know that this movie made over 700 million worldwide.
Made a
but-
lot of. It probably made more than Solo's going to make.
Yeah.
Low blow, Mark
It will.
Ellis.
That's what's crazy. It is going to make more. It
I
did
like
make
Solo
more.
better. Don't now everybody's
Yes,
gonna be like,
and I
Ellis
did
loves
too.
Maleficent.
I don't know why we have a Maleficent 2. It's like she was a villain, and then in the movie Maleficent, she's no longer a villain. So she's just going to be creepy Angelina Jolie with horns, talking to her, doing this the whole time, and good cast.
It's going to chronicle the
It's
relationship
like-
between the Horned Fairy and the soon-to-be Queen.
I love Michelle Pfeiffer. I can't wait to see what she does in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
She is,
Yes.
and she's going to be a villain now in
That's
this probably.
yeah.
She's going to be. It's like they're doing the reverse Snow White thing. I think she's like an evil queen, and now like Maleficent and Aurora. have to, like, team up.
Maleficent 2.
That's
gonna be so good.
I want the dragon. I want her to turn
What the
into a
hell?
dragon.
Bring that
and-
dragon back.
and that's the movie.
Right,
And
you
the
do
whole
it.
movie is her. Then
It's part of the
cocky.
trilogy of Sleeping
It's
Beauty.
the trilogy,
Yep.
and you do it like George R. R. Martin. You tease us with the dragons for a long time.
That's right.
You don't go full dragon right off the bat.
No
you
way.
got to wait to go full dragon. Then the third Maleficent, that's the one that's going to crush at the box box office, break records, because we get to see Angelina Jolie in dragon form the entire movie. So
that's
go
her
see
Oscar
Maleficent
play.
2.
Go
I heard
full
you
dragon.
never go full dragon, but you're saying go full dragon on the
Saying-
third one.
Well,
I'm
if you
saying
want an
full on
Oscar
dragon.
nod for
Go full
Angelina
dragon.
Jolie,
Right.
go full dragon.
Half dragon, Maleficent 2, full dragon,
Yeah.
Maleficent 4.
Yeah.
There you go.
Just skip the third one.
Yeah, you don't even need the third movie. I love it. I love these. It's like, we've started filming. Here's a picture.
Of chairs, a picture of
chairs,
chairs
yeah, it's-
in the forest.
But you know what's funny is, and I do this too, but
what?
you do that with a Marvel movie, though, and they're like, hey, here's a picture of
Oh my
the
God.
chairs. And we're like, it's coming. And Maleficent, you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's...
A couple of chairs. Woohoo! It's exciting.
Maleficent 2 coming to theaters sometime next year. We're going to save some time for live Twitter questions. I reminded you. In the meantime, go check out Collider.com immediately after this broadcast. If you're going to be in the Southern California area on June 4th, you could get yourself some tickets to a special pre-screening of Hotel Artemis, the new assassin movie coming out. It's got a great cast. Jodie Foster, Jeff Goldblum, amongst others, plus the filmmaker are going to be at this very special Q&A. So if you're going to be around, go to Collider.com for your chance to check out tickets. And this weekend, speaking of tickets, there might be a couple left for the movie Trivia Schmodown Live. It's this Saturday at the El Portal Theater. If you want to get tickets right now, you've been slacking on it, go to schmodownlive.com literally right now, because it's on the verge of selling out. Very excited to do that this weekend. Myself and Christian Harloff will be hosting it. We also have an all-new Collider Heroes. It's going to be up later on today. What are we getting sweaty about?
Oh, we're going to talk about Spawn and AntMan and the Wasp. No, we're going to talk about a whole...
I was going to say, you look surprised that you were doing a live show later today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Maleficent too. No, we're not. Just tune in. I don't want to ruin it. You know who's on? Jason and Ashley. We're going to talk about their amazing comic, Jupiter Jet.
Oh, nice.
And a couple
Yeah.
of we're going to talk about X-Men, Dark Phoenix. Whole bunch of flavor. Come on.
I think, did I see a picture from, it might have been MegaCon or Motor City Con, where somebody actually cosplayed as Jupiter Jet?
That was at Phoenix Comic-Con, because there were MegaCon and Phoenix were happening in the same weekend, so we couldn't do. You had to pick one. Kind of stop doing that stuff. Conventions. It's really dumb.
It's amazing to see something you created now being cosplay.
I was happy. I was happy for Jason and Ashley,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things we'll talk about. Is like it's to see something that they've created from the ground up, to see that like a little kid cosplaying. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Riley, no stranger to that. Riley has people cosplaying as him at regular conventions.
I'll never understand that.
As well as John Roca. I've seen people dress up as the Outlaw too.
Oh, yeah.
So just waiting for somebody in a full-on carrot costume this summer at Comic-Con.
That's going to happen.
We also have the Movie Talk podcast. You guys can listen to this in podcast form wherever you check out your podcast. On the Movie Talk feed, you also get the weekend shows Mailbag, hosted by Perry Nemiroff, and Afterthoughts, hosted by Ryan and Jay, who I listen to from time to time and made a point that maybe I'm not taking the widest swath possible of Twitter questions, that they want to see a little more diversity in the people asking the Twitter questions. So I would put it to everybody out there, how about we get some more diversity in the people asking Twitter questions, because I see a lot of the same things. And I'm just going to let you all know this right now. If you're cutting and pasting the same question day after day after day after day, I've seen it.
Get them.
I'm probably not going to ask it. So
Yes.
change something else. Ryan and Jay, never seen y'all on here asking a Twitter question. So maybe if you guys hashtag Collider Movie Talk and do at Collider Video, I could ask a question you have posed to the panel, but it's just not in the cards right now, right? So instead, we go to Maya Patton. And Maya Patton actually has a very similar question to somebody else named Better Call Maul, and they're both kind of asking the same thing. Better Call Maul says, do you think the box office disappointment with Solo could cause them to focus more on the saga films 10, 11, and 12? And then Maya Patton, in that same vein, says, do you think we're going to get another saga in the next 10 years? So episode 9 comes out, and then are we going to get 10, 11, and 12? I think we're going to get those sooner rather than later, because I think that maybe you give a 3-year or 4-year break, and then we come back with 10, 11, and 12, because the whole point of this new trilogy is twofold: to honor the characters that have come before and then set up a new classic character roster, and that's what they're in the midst of doing. So once you have those characters, you're not going to disappear for 15 years like what we did from 83 to 99. You're going to want a new saga trilogy sooner rather than later. How do y'all feel?
Well, I was going to say, if you go with the theory of even releasing 2 movies a year starting in 2020 or even 2021, after number 9 comes out, you're going to have, if they follow through with these things, you'll have a Rian Johnson universe. You'll have a, in the past, Benioff Weiss universe. That's 2 movies a year. And if they're going to keep doing these like Boba Fett, Kenobi, will that be a 3-movie-a-year type thing? How will that all work itself out? And then if the Rian trilogy and the Weiss trilogy even happen once a year, which I don't see how that could, it's probably every other year, so they'll alternate. That's 6 years right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see them doing 10, 11, and 12 easily for like 8 or 9 years. So I would like to see that much of a break between the trilogies, because in order for things to happen, you have to also go back way into the past and mine some of that amazing storytelling that's already exists in the video games, the RPGs, comic books, and books. So much of that stuff which isn't official canon yet can be, and we can all go into that together. We'll see a lot of other storytelling done through Jon Favreau's television series, and of course this newer trilogy. So I feel that that'll add to the fabric of the Star Wars universe, at least the storytelling, so that when we actually get to 10, 11, and 12, it could be in the future, and it should be. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, I'm mixed. I want to see Episode 9, see how they wrap up this trilogy. But by all accounts, this is the last movie of the Skywalker saga, and
Right.
we're at the end of that. So I don't know if you can call it a part of the saga if it's not connected to the Skywalker saga, or if they do set up something, that there are things revealed in Episode 9 that could warrant that. What I see happening is kind of what you're saying, Schnepp, but I see it more like Disney, like they do a bunch of Star Wars movies, and then there is fatigue, and then it kind of dies down a bit, and one movie doesn't open up to like 200 million, or God forbid, below Solo, and then Disney like pulls back and they go, oh my God. And then a few years later, it's like, guess what? Episode 10. Everybody's like, loses their mind and they're back. That's what this new saga was. It's like we didn't have Star Wars movies, and then they announced the continuation of the saga that we thought we'd never get, and here we are. So I would say never say never. I just would like to see what happens with Episode 9.
I agree with everything you said except the pullback. They're never going to stop making Star Wars. There's not going to be a break of 1 year.
Well, if you listen to Kathleen Kennedy and Iger, who say we're going to do it forever, yes.
Yeah, I think that I think what might happen is Episode 9 comes out, right? And then whatever they do with these standalone movies, like the Boba Fett movie or the Obi-Wan movie, maybe that comes out at some other point. But I think that you have Episode 9 come out, and then you focus on whatever Benioff and Weiss are doing. I think that's it, because the Rian Johnson trilogy, we haven't heard anything about in a long time, so I just don't know what the deal with that is. Benioff and Weiss seem to be what the fans are most excited about, because that's going to be a completely different time period. So you let them make their series of movies, and then you come back 5 years later with Episode 10.
Yeah.
Okay, we just solved it.
Yeah.
There we go. You're welcome, Lucasfilm.
Fully solved.
All right.
You're right. Yeah. No. Should we write it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll write Episode 9.
I would say make the check out to Mark Ellis, but you guys already do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. One more question to get to, and it comes from a newcomer here to the Twitterverse, Ryan Snelling. Ryan Snelling says, what's your least favorite movie cliche? For example, not saying goodbye before you hang up the phone. You see that happen in a lot of movies. Right. Not finishing breakfast before rushing off to work. It happens in a lot of rom-coms.
Least favorite?
Least favorite.
I'll have to say my least favorite now. I used to enjoy it, but then it got overdone. Is a walk away with an explosion.
Yeah.
The walk, like, just somebody walking in slow motion, or 7 people walking and some stuff is exploding behind them.
In slow motion.
Or running and things are exploding behind them. It just happens so many times now that even though people were making fun of it, then it got meta, then they stopped making fun of it, it became real again. Now I just don't want to see it again.
Just the Deadpool movie, because he's making fun of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, even that.
Yeah. Okay, Reilly, your least favorite movie cliche. The phone thing is real, by the way. Like, the way people talk on the phone in movies, nobody talks like that.
Yeah.
You never just hang up the phone.
I know.
And if the other person hangs up, it doesn't immediately go to dial tone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of those nitpicky things where it's like you're supposed to be real on film to get you immersed, and it's like hello, and they're going hello to a dial tone. You're like, no, that's not how it works. It clicks off, and then after a while, I guess. The phone thing, I like it when it challenges horror movie directors to do something different rather than, oh my God, we're in the middle of nowhere and cell phones don't work. Like, I thought The Strangers did something interesting in that movie where all of a sudden they look and their phones are in the fire. And it's, kind of was for the story that the strangers came in and threw their stuff in the fire, and that's why it happened, rather than, I don't have service, I don't have phones.
Right.
If they can challenge themselves to do something different, that's a cliche in every horror movie.
Yeah, horror movies famous for their cliches, as lampooned very well by Jamie Kennedy's character in Scream. You go upstairs, you start taking a shower when stuff goes down. A cliche I see happen in a lot of movies, it usually action movies, is that characters just always happen to have the news on at their house. They always happen to have the news on, and they like they're just doing something else, and the news is on in the background, and then they hear, this detective is under fire right now. There's stuff going. And it's like, wait, what? People have the news on in their house,
and it's exactly what they're supposed to hear at that moment.
Yeah.
Now I think about it, I have ESPN running in my house constantly. So if it was a sports story, if it's like a dog is on the basketball court and he's made 3 threes already, I'm like, well, I guess I'm in the movie Air Bud. So thank you for that question, Ryan. Keep them coming. Everybody out there in Twitter, we love your support. Thank you to Jon Schnepp. Thank you to Mark Reilly. I am merely Mark Ellis Live. See you guys in New York, not this weekend, but next weekend. You can get tickets at markellislive.com, or you can catch us tomorrow on a brand new episode of Collider Movie Talk. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.